I am fantasy author Elle Penelope, and welcome to my imaginary friends, a look behind the scenes at an author mapping the worlds in my head and making them a reality. Hello friends, today is Friday, June 28th, 2019, and this is episode 20 of my imaginary friends. I'm Leslie. So, I have a few announcements, or one announcement. I'm doing a pre-order giveaway for the paperback copy of Song of Blood and Stone. The paperback version comes out July 16th. And if you pre-order a signed copy from Books with a Past, which is one of my local Maryland bookstores, then you will get a free bookmark and a sticker set, and one person will be entered to win an ARC of Book 2, Whispers of Shadow and Flame. So you can get more information on my website, lpenelope.com. If you're interested in ordering a signed copy. So, this week's best thing. I have a runner-up, or an honorable mention, I guess. I don't know. Are those the same thing? Are they different things? But I saw this early in the week, which was a video that someone posted. Oh, Cynthia posted on Facebook, one of my friends in California, about it's a video of the New York subway and a bunch of people singing Backstreet Boys. I think they're singing "I Want It That Way." I'm not sure which song it is. I can't remember now, but somebody starts singing it, and then everybody joins in, and then they're all like singing on the subway. All these different people, different races and ages, and brought together by the love for the Backstreet Boys. And I thought that was really beautiful. It just warmed my heart when I needed it to be warmed. And someone was like, "Oh, that can only happen in New York." And I don't know about that. I mean, I think that it's a very New York subway thing to happen. Can I imagine it happening on the BART in San Francisco? Maybe. There was a time in my life when I really wanted to live in New York. I remember that song that came out in the 90s. The lyrics was something like, "Live in California at least once, but leave before it makes you soft. Live in New York at least once, but leave before it makes you hard." Well, I went to graduate school in California, so I lived in Oakland for a few years. Technically, I did live in New York because I was born in the Bronx, and I lived there for about a year before my parents moved to DC. But since I have no conscious memories of New York, it doesn't really count. So after grad school, I really wanted to go to New York, and my master's is in multimedia, and I wanted to do like interactive multimedia installation art, which never actually happened. But, I was going to go stay with my friend and like couch surf, and I'd actually started talking to people about apartments, and someone through church had hooked me up with this woman who was looking for a roommate, and I talked to her on the phone, and I was like, "Yeah, it's a doorman building, and there's like 4 other women, and we have bunk beds, and we all live in one room." And I was like, "Oh, I don't think that I am about that life." Like, I grew up in the suburbs. I'm used to having my own room. I can't share one room with 4 other people. I'm sorry. And it was still super expensive. For someone who had no job at the time. So like for that and for other reasons, I did not end up moving to New York. And it worked out for the best. I ended up going home after graduate school. I moved back to Maryland, and that was really good because within 2 years, my father was diagnosed with cancer, and a few months later, he passed away. So I was really grateful that I went home and that I had that time there. And I never regretted not moving to New York City. And now when I go there, it is exhausting. And I'm going for RWA conference in July, and I have to like rev myself up for a trip to New York. But the video on the subway really kind of made my day. So that was the honorable mention. And the actual this week's best thing is Shaka Zulu, which I had never seen. So the 10-part miniseries, or 10-hour miniseries, I guess it came out in the mid-'80s. I don't know how I missed it. I did see Roots, and I saw Queen, and I saw, the other big 80s, or I guess Roots was in 78. That was the year I was born. But I managed to see the other big Black, miniseries about Black history, but never Shaka Zulu. And my husband was appalled at this. And so it's on Netflix, and we watched it this week, all 10 hours of it. And it is a lot. It is something to see. Like, it's the scope, and thinking about the film shoot. I mean, the scope is amazing. It's, thousands and thousands of people on screen, well, probably hundreds, but it looked like thousands. And so it's the 80s, and it's before they could digitally replicate people. So they had to have all of those people there. And, I was a film major. I've been on film sets, both student sets and indie sets, and then my brother's professional film sets. And I cannot imagine being on that film set. It must have been 150 degrees outside. There are hundreds and thousands of people running around. The costumes, the sets, they built all these villages. Like, it is amazing. And for all of that work, the story is remarkably incomprehensible. Like, not totally, like, you could follow what's going on, but they spend so much time and attention to detail on the culture and the traditions and the costumes and the actual storytelling. I actually had some problems with. I was like, I'm not clear on what's happening and why. Too often, there were too many times where I'm like, who are they and why is he going there and what is he going? And we should have had some foreshadowing about these people. And then the end, you're like, the credits start rolling and I'm like, wait a minute, that's the end. There's no more episodes. Like, they set up all these things that they didn't pay off. So it is still this week's best thing, but with caveats, I guess. Like, I'm glad I saw it. I was amazed by it. It was wondrous. And I find, like, watching people speaking that much Zulu in my head, like, since I finished watching it last night, it took that long. I think it took almost 10 hours to be able to not recognize, but something like recognize the words. Like, anyway, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's like the names and some of the words that they say in Zulu, after hearing them repeated over and over, and like, oh yeah, they roll off my tongue now, whereas it starts out as very foreign, and then it's like, oh yes, Sindikagona. I'm probably saying that wrong anyway, but that was the name of Shaka Zulu's father. And just like something changes. And so I don't speak any other languages. I took 6 or 7 years of French. I took 4 years of Latin. I took a year of Spanish. I took a couple of years of sign language, and I am fluent in nothing but English. But that immersion, as immersed as you can be watching a 10-hour miniseries. They offer Zulu at Howard, and I did not take it. I don't think I knew someone who took it. I kind of wish I did. That would be cool. Although I would have lost it by now, because when do I get the opportunity to speak Zulu? Anyway, so this week has been challenging, to say the least. I've been definitely flirting with burnout. A lot of it has to do with work and work projects. And that's been very difficult. And so being on social media, I've been seeing other people dealing with the same thing. And it seems like this period in time, or maybe it's that thing when you are experiencing something, you notice it more. Like when you buy a Volkswagen Beetle, you start seeing, like when you start thinking about, like if I started thinking about buying a certain car in the future, then I notice more of those cars more than I have ever done before. So going through this, I've definitely been seeing and noticing more people dealing with burnout. Like the author Grace Draven, who I adore, she posted on Facebook earlier this week something about going off social media because she's in revision hell. And it sounds like it really is revision hell. Something like she wrote over 100,000 words and then had to scrap all but 4,500 of them. And like my heart goes out to her. I know she listens sometimes. So if you're listening, Grace, oh my goodness, I feel for you. And her books are so exquisite and so carefully done. And I love them so much. So I know how much care and time that she's putting into her work. And so, having a setback like that and, apparently working, like pulling all-nighters and things. Authors who pull all-nighters, and I see them talking about this, I am always amazed. I haven't done an all-nighter since, I don't even think I did all-nighters in college. Like, there have been times when I've stayed up all night, but not really working. Like, those were all, like, fun times. I don't have the stamina for that. By 2 or 3 a.m., my brain is done. Way, way before 2 or 3 a.m., my brain is done if I've been working all day. So, like, I did last week, a coding thing, and I was trying to code until, like, 11 p.m. because I work projects. I'm a website developer, if you are new to the podcast. And so I work with WordPress and PHP and MySQL. And so I was doing some coding. And at 11 o'clock, my head started to hurt and My eyes started to like jiggle. Like my eyes have been twitching, and that's a stress response. I know that when my eyes, sometimes my eyebrow will twitch, but now it's both eyes. And usually it's my eyelids, but I think it feels like the eyeball is twitching. And that's how I know I'm stressed, when my eyes, and I also have a pair of computer glasses. So I have trifocals and computer glasses, because the trifocals include the computer glass, but I've never mastered the art of like moving my head or whatever I have to do to get those to work. So I am wildly tangenting. I apologize. But yes, burnout is real. And so I saw her post, and then I made a post on Instagram, like a story, so it's gone now. But of something that I saw in someone else's story, and it's just a thing about, I'm sorry I didn't text you back, but I'm going out of my mind because I'm super stressed and in a downward spiral. And when I see someone else's, like, for example, if I see this post that someone else made, then I go back to the original so that I can repost it without their, words and stuff on it. And I just saw so many people like, yes, this is me, this is me. And then when I posted it, people were like, yes, this is me. And a lot of people are going through this, a lot of authors specifically, but I'm sure just everybody, other people. Most of the people on my social media are authors or readers or like people that I actually know in real life. So that I've seen a lot of people going through this exact same experience, and I've talked to other people about burnout, and I've talked about burnout here before, and I probably will do it again, because in the middle of the week, there was just one day when I just had to stop and get in the bed. It was just, the straw that broke the camel back was a specific email from work, a work email, and I only saw the subject line, and I was like, no, I can't. I give up today. Today is done. I'm going to bed. And so I took a nap, and I had to get up later that evening because I had an interview with a blogger that I had to do. And so that was actually for the best, because it forced me to get up, get dressed again, but at least put a shirt on because it was a Skype interview, and kind of turn back on. And maybe there were endorphins flowing through my body when I had to, not be moping through this interview. And it was good. It was nice to talk to somebody that I didn't know and talk about book stuff. So I was grateful that I had that reason to push through and push out. And the next day was a lot better. I ended up dealing with the work email. Sometimes you build these things up in your mind, and it wasn't as bad as I thought, but I was able to get through it, and I'm feeling better now. But I'm teetering. I'm right on the edge, and it's not all the writing. It's the combined stress of everything that I have to do. So, which I'm still trying to figure out how to manage. Because I run my own business, I'm usually fortunate in that I choose the projects that I work on, and I've really tried to design my life so that I'm doing mostly things I want to do. That was important to me. And so that's why I started my own business, and I'm self-employed, and that's why I started self-publishing. And so, yeah. But sometimes things get away from you, and being an adult means you can't always do what you want to do, which I realize. I try to, do as much of the things that I want to do as possible. But it's not always the case. So I'm feeling pretty good right now. But I do know that it changes quickly, and I have to be aware of it. I am listening to the audiobook of this book called Burnout that was recommended to me by another author, Sarah Storin. And we're going to be on a panel together at RWA. Not about burnout, though. But yeah, so she mentioned it, and I started listening to it. And the beginning, like the first section, was really good. It is, the big takeaway is you need to exercise more, which is very obvious. Like, yes, stress, exercise more. But the way that they discuss it, and like the route they take to get there was very interesting to me. And, just the same thing said a different way resonates at different times of your life. So I do know I need to exercise more. I climb, and we've got various equipment in the basement for like a little tiny, but like a mini gym. So I got on the rowing machine, and I did some rowing this week. And I think I might have to actually start meditating again, because I was meditating when I was super stressed, and then when I got out of it, I stopped. And so now I need it again. But as for the burnout book, The next section got into some like what I call white feminism that doesn't really resonate with me. And so I stopped listening to it. But Sarah, who had recommended it, and she had said that the end was also good. So I might just try to power through and get to the end of it. And because it's a lot of there's a framing of certain feminist ideas that feel not polarizing, but that don't feel relevant to me as a Black woman because our struggle has been very different. And so when I hear that, it's just like I start rolling my eyes and I tune out. So anyway, oh, also, I saw a picture of the paperback Song of Blood and Stone, the new version that comes out in July, on someone's Twitter. Like I think he's either a bookseller or an editor, or like a reviewer or something. But apparently he'd gotten a lot of books and he posted them and tagged me. And I have not seen this book yet. There were no arcs made, so and I haven't gotten my copies yet. I hope that they're in the mail. It's always interesting with traditional publishing when other people get your book and see it and hold it in their hands before you do. So I'm excited. I'm hoping that any day I'll go to the mailbox and I'll have some books there and I will be able to see this version of it, because obviously I have the original, but the new special edition that I bled and sweat over to add this new storyline. And yeah, it's coming. Part of the stress is just still the marketing, which I mentioned before. But yeah, once I wrote down all the things that I'm doing, I did start feeling better for a while, for a few days. And now it's like, oh, but I should be doing more. I should be doing more. But I have to step back because if I make myself physically ill, I won't be able to do anything at all. So I'm trying to get over that. The writing is actually going pretty well. I had some more breakthroughs this week. So last week, I think I was talking about genre and in terms of the story grid, the book by Sean Coyne. And I was struggling with whether my book 4 of the Earthsinger Chronicles, which is what I'm writing now, which is what I'm plotting now. Haven't gotten to the writing yet, but whether it's action genre or society genre. And I was continuing to think about this and delving more into what those genres are. And I came across an episode of the Story Grid Editors Roundtable podcast about Black Panther, the movie. And so it was just what I needed. It was perfect. So it was a conversation between people with different opinions about what genre Black Panther is. One faction was saying that it was the society genre, and the other faction said it was the action genre. And the fact that it could be read as either or both or either was very helpful to me in terms of thinking about it, because my story is both. There's definitely an action plot line where the stakes are life and death, and then there is a society plot line where the stakes are power and impotence versus power and the changing hands of power, where one group is subjugated and are trying not to be. And so I was like, oh, I can have both. I don't have to choose. And that was sort of a happy revelation. I do tend to have a very structured way of thinking. And in terms of, oh, I've got to choose one genre. When I knew very well that there's subplots and the subplots have different genres, but the main genre is very equal to both. And so the fact that they were having this conversation, this sort of debate about that, and the reasoning that they were giving for each of their opinions was really interesting. So I've narrowed down my plot lines and the genre of each plot line, and right now I'm working on the obligatory scenes. So part of the story grid is that each genre has obligatory scenes that must appear in it in order for the audience to feel satisfied and in order for the story to work, quote unquote. And having that kind of structure helps me so much. Like the wide open space of the things that I know about the story. Like I know these things have to happen in approximately this order, beginning, middle, end. But I know I have to hit these points in order to fulfill the story arc that I've been telling for 4 books. But I didn't have, and I'm still working on the connective tissue. And so filling in the obligatory scenes, like, okay, what does each storyline have to have at minimum? and then adding in more scenes and more scenes to connect it together is really, really working for me. Now, the story grid is based in large part on Robert McKee's book Story. That's where Sean Coyne got a lot of the structure of what he was doing. And I was listening to another author's podcast about, this is the first time this author was reading Story, and he was very dismayed about the prescriptive nature of what Robert McKee is saying, that, these certain stories have to have these things, and you must do this, this, and this. And he was feeling like it was very formulaic, and it would result in a formulaic story. And that's a criticism of a lot of these sort of structural kind of books and methods. And I understand that, but for me, it opens me up. I don't feel constrained in any way by the idea that this story has obligatory scenes that it must have. I feel like it's allowed me to think about it more broadly, and it's taken away some of the fear and uncertainty and overwhelm of literally being able to do anything. Like, okay, I can focus, I can narrow it down to these things have to happen. And I'm not at all afraid that it's going to result in a story that is formulaic, because I think that creativity shines within the structure, within the borders, and within the boundaries. And it's just, it stopped a block that I was having by giving me something to focus on and reining me in and reining in the ideas. So, I think creativity really appreciates a fence, and especially when you're writing genre fiction, that, I think it's different with literary fiction and with things that are just wild and out there and are supposed to be crazy and completely free. I think that when you're trying to appeal to people who subconsciously understand story and understand what they expect to happen, there's nothing wrong with meeting expectations. Like, you want to meet expectations, and you also want to surprise people, and you can do both, and that's part of the magic of creation. So I was very happy for that. I'll link to that podcast episode in the show notes. I seem to be losing my voice, and I can't find my water. I don't know what happens to it, but I think I'm done talking anyway. So, this weekend, I'm going to continue working on the structure and hopefully fill in more scenes and hopefully be ready to write really soon and be able to write actual words in the story and get it done. And hopefully the work stuff, 2 of the projects are supposed to end next week. So hopefully a lot of that stress will be gone. And I will feel better consistently and avoid burnout just in time for traveling in July. So I hope that you have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you next time. Happy reading. For episode show notes and to learn more about me and my books, go to lpenelope.com. Subscribe to My Imaginary Friends wherever you get your podcasts, and check out the video episodes on YouTube. Please leave a rating and review to help support the show.